Hello, fellow cyborgs. Today I would like to talk to you about some of the most intimidating books on my shelves. So I recently did the intimidating TBR pile tag like a couple months ago, and though some of those books that I haven't read yet are still quite intimidating, I have another stack that I want to talk about, or just a stack I still need to talk to you about, because looking at my shelves and looking at the books that I had there that weren't with me in Canada when I was doing that tag, there are some other contenders for most intimidating books. Some of these are because they're big, some because they're classic, some because I've just had them for far too long. So let's just get to the stack and see what intimidates me most. This is Dear Theo, edited by Irving Stone, but it's an autobiography of Vincent van Gogh. Irving Stone edited down Vincent's letters, his many letters to his brother, and then through them kind of told a narrative, and you learn more about Vincent van Gogh. I've had this on my shelf for ages, since I was in community college, so that would have been like 8 years ago or something like that, and I just continue to not pick it up. And I think it's not only because like the text isn't that big, and it's also, it's a classic in its probably writing style and language use. I don't know, it's just, I really love Vincent van Gogh. He's easily my favorite painter, but for some reason I keep not picking this up. And there must be some intimidating reason for that. Or maybe I'm just lazy. I don't know. But this is definitely one of the more intimidating books that when I look at my to-read shelf, I think, oh, it's going to be tough getting finally to you if I want to get 0 by 18 done. This is The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, and my edition is translated by Henry Francis Carey. This is a Borders Classics leatherbound edition, which tells you how old it is. I think I picked this up when I was like 16. Oh, and I still haven't read it. I bought it mostly because of the Gustave Doré etchings that is throughout this book, and I just was amazed at the mix between the classic and like the classic poem and the etchings, the beautiful classic etchings. And so that's why I picked this up, because the illustrations are so beautiful. But I, haven't let myself look at the etchings because I need to discover them as I'm reading through this. But maybe I shouldn't have bought this all those years ago, but now I don't want to give it up without finally reading it, but I don't really know when I'm going to get to it, because it's heaven and hell and purgatory, and it's a poem, and it's a huge copy as well. Like, this is not going to be physically easy for me to read. But I guess I'm at this point where it's just like, Amanda, should you be keeping this if you don't anytime soon want to read it? I don't know. Bothers me. It's a question that bothers me. This is The Collected Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe, and this is intimidating just because of its size, really. Because it's a hardcover. Hardcovers aren't the best for me to enjoy reading, and it's just full of things. The text is also not that big, and it's just so much. I forget to pick this up if I want to read poetry because the poems are part of it, and I, don't pick up like the House of Usher or the Telltale Heart, some of his more famous things, because it's just bound up with other things that aren't so famous. I just definitely need to have a game plan to tackle this, but every year I intend to read it leading up to Halloween, and this year I don't think it's going to happen either because I'm doing Figtober and I'm going to be reading Dombey and Son. Oh, please let the Dickens fairies help me get through that and enjoy it. So yeah, it's just like, Poe, I don't know when I'm going to get to you, but I really, really want to read more of his stuff because I really like the idea of him. I like the few poems that I've read of his, but I've just not read anything else by him, unfortunately. This is Wet Magic by E. Nesbit. It is a tiny, teeny children's novel, and yet it is really intimidating because it is a mermaid story that I have had for 13 years. So this was a recommendation by a classmate when I was telling her that I love mermaid books, and she recommended this, which I'd never heard about because it's a British author, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not that well versed in British children's lit. I was even less knowledgeable when I was 13, and so I bought this but then just never picked it up. And now it's intimidating just because it's been staring at me for 13 years, and I just don't know what to expect from it, and I also think there's a lot of guilt around this one because it's so small. It's mermaids, and I've had it for 13 years. It's just like, why have you not picked this up? I don't know, but just that guilt is really making me look at it like with a side eye, just like, I don't know about you. Ugh, poor wet magic, poor mermaids, poor Nesbit. And finally, this is like a repeat answer, but it's still so true. The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. So I bought this box set at the beginning of 2015 because I was planning on going on a Middle-earth themed trip to New Zealand. That trip is not happening anymore, unfortunately, which just means that I have more time to not read these than before. So many people love Lord of the Rings, and I freaking adore the movies. Those movies are an integral part of my self-care regime, and they're just awesome. And I love those characters in the movies. I've read The Hobbit, enjoyed it. And I read Fellowship of the Ring, which I found the dullest, driest thing ever. And then I got like halfway through The Two Towers. I got to the Ents and Treebeard, and I was just not that enthralled. So remembering that getting to the, action-y bits, I still wasn't caring all that much, just makes me really intimidated to finish the series. I really, really want to finish the series, just to do it once. But every time I look at these spines, I just think, which isn't the best attitude to go into reading these books. I have the audiobooks, but they're not really getting me into it, so I don't know. If you guys have some tips and tricks into getting into the Lord of the Rings, or if those of you who love Lord of the Rings, if you could tell me why. I think part of the reason why I'm having a hard time getting into it is most of the people who love Lord of the Rings say that the world building is just fantastic, and I agree. But that's not enough for me to enjoy a book. I would be disappointed if Lord of the Rings just wasn't for me. I'm hoping that I'm just doing it wrong or that I haven't reached the right time in my life to read these, because I really want to love the source material of movies I love, and I just don't understand why that's not been happening for me. So those are the most intimidating books on my current TBR shelf. Please let me know in the comments down below if you agree with me in my reasons of why these are intimidating, or if you agree with me in my choices. And again, if you love Lord of the Rings, please talk with me. I would really just love to know what point of view I should be going at reading them and continuing with the series, and hopefully separating myself from my lack of impressedness, which was with the Fellowship of the Ring. I'm really hoping that the second two books just are really worth my time and really worth my struggle to continue to have them on my shelves, continue to have them staring at me, and continue wanting to read them. Thank you for watching regardless, and until next time, continue to be lovely. You're more adorable. Thank you to all of my patrons who are supporting me on Patreon. I appreciate it ever so much. Hope that you are having a lovely day, not getting too hung up on the intimidating books on your shelves, and are continuing to be lovely. This is the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. This is the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. Can I just sound even less uncultured than normal? Gustave Doré etchings, that's what they're called. If you in British children's lit, and I was not. So I just am, I'm